how I first encountered the work of Pier Paolo Calzolari was not in person. It was through visuals from books and from being aware of the arte povera movement as an important movement in contemporary art and influencing a lot of artists. And one of my younger artists had been talking to me about the work of Pier Paolo and had been an art handler at the Walker Art Center at the time when Richard Flood had been doing his shows there of arte povera. And he had installed works by Pier Paolo and was telling me about how they changed his view of art, changed his life, propelled him into wanting to go to graduate school for sculpture, and he ended up going to Yale, and he's now one of the gallery artists. But because of his deep interest in the work, I got interested, and I was already very interested in the Italians from post-war forward and their influence on so much that came after. And at first I had trouble finding the work of Pier Paolo because he hadn't shown in America. The last time was in 1988, so it was not something that was easily accessible. There weren't a lot of books that had English text, and I don't speak Italian. I'm going to learn one day. But so I had to really do some physical research, and I spent time in Italy, and I went. I was curious enough to go, and I went to Parma, and I went to Milano, and I went and saw some works of people that had them, and found through a friend in Parma a way to contact Pier Paolo. So we started writing to each other. And about a year later, he allowed me to come to the studio for the first time, which is now the foundation. Totally different experience as a foundation than as the studio, being a working studio at the time, which is maybe now 8 years ago, 2010 maybe, 7 years ago. So that was the beginning of our dialogue and our relationship. And then the first time I got to see a real major installation was at Capesaro in Venice. So that was 2010, I believe. We should check the date. But the museum there had installed many major works, and for me to be able to see them in person, I had the studio experience and then the museum experience, and it's, you know, sublime. My impression of this now as a foundation instead of the working studio is very different and very the same. So you have the same soul of Pier Paolo in these spaces and the same air and breath around the work where you can really experience things through space and light, but it's definitely more formal. So before you could come through and there were things half built coming out of crates being restored, and there was a sense of a beehive of activity happening. And now it's a very quiet experience of walking through these incredible spaces and just getting to be with the art, and you don't have that sense of activity around. It's a quiet experience, and you get to see the range over time of the use of materials and text and the repetition of ideas and the investigations that he goes deep and deep, that start when we think about the performance works and how we have, the flame work right here, it's from '79, but he was doing performance work all the way back. To be able to walk into the foundation and see something activated like that you can only otherwise see in books from history is a really incredible experience. I love Pier Paolo's work for so many reasons, and each piece for so many different reasons. I'm standing in front of this piece, and in a way it's kind of a perfect combination of so many things that Pier Paolo is interested in. Not just the materials, but you've got the lead and the copper and the bronze, and you have the teapot, the frost, the burned wood, and then you have the movement of the water. So it captures a lot of, even the sense of domesticity and warmth and comfort that he's seeking in his work in terms of atmosphere. And then I love the way he makes the still life be a physical experience instead of flat. So for me, it reminds me of a Morandi, but you have to walk all the way through. So to be able to experience every part. For me, I spend so much time thinking about Pier Paolo's work and looking at Pier Paolo's work that to be able to come here, and I come to Fossombrone probably once a year, maybe more. Now that it's a foundation, it'll depend on how often the works are changing. But it's an opportunity to sit with work and spend time with it that each time I find it's a long discovery. Every piece of Pier Paolo's, you discover new things. And there's a piece there that looks like burned black salt, but it has red pigment in it. There's a slow reveal to his work that's meant to slow you down. And when I see Pier Paolo's work in Fossombrone, the experience of getting here, being here, and everything in the surroundings, the speed of the experience is completely different than in a museum or in New York or in any other city. So to come to Fossombrone it's a different experience, and you experience art in a very different way.